Want to save $5,000 in RV repairs?
A certain big box RV store near me currently charges almost $500 for mobile RV work, which isn't even the highest I've ever seen, and is bonkers when you consider how often things go wrong in RVs and the fact that with one simple tool, you can solve almost any RV problem yourself. My name is Emily. I'm a certified mobile RV repair tech, and this is RV Repairwoman. This video is actually going to be the first in a 5-part video series where I show you the one tool that is going to save you thousands in your RV, and then show you the 10 most common calls that I get as a tech, and show you how to fix them yourself, harnessing the power of this epic tool. So you may be wondering, what is this one tool that's going to save my dying wallet, make me look like a Greek god to my family, and have crowds of people cheering my name? Well, if you've been around the channel for a while, you'll know it's a multimeter. But if as soon as this thing flashed on screen, you got PTSD flashbacks to your horrible high school physics teacher, do not be alarmed. This little guy is not as scary as he seems. If you can turn a doorknob and hold 2 pencils, you can use a multimeter. And if I was stranded on a desert island in an RV and could only have one tool, this is the tool I would want to have. Well, not this one. I'd want my Klein CL800, but this cheapo $7 meter from Harbor Freight can get you most of the way there. If you can get over how scary these guys look on the outside, you can start saving some major moolah in your RV. Let me show you how. We'll eventually go over all of the settings on your multimeter and how to use them in your RV. But today, let's just concentrate on the #1 most used setting and how you can use it to solve 3 of the most common calls that I get for RVs. That setting, DC volts. People who've taken RV Basics to Badass, my free RV beginners course, link in the description, will know that we have 2 types of electricity in our RV, AC and DC. Today, we're just gonna talk about DC volts, and we'll hit on AC voltage in the next video in this series. So think about electricity as Bob the electron going on one big circular journey. And the voltage chest is just going to be the test that we use to check in on Bob and see where he is along his path. Bob is just trying to go over the mountain through the woods to grandmother's house. If he goes into the woods and never comes out, then we know that the woods is our problem. Same goes for a circuit. If we know that power made it into a thermostat, but he doesn't come out of a thermostat, then we know that the thermostat is most likely our problem. Solving electrical problems can be this easy. But how do we test for voltage? How do we find Bob? Well, if you have a simple meter like this, which is the cheapest meter they sell at Harbor Freight, you're going to be looking for this section labeled DCV, or DC volts. Because this meter isn't very sophisticated, we need to tell it roughly what range of voltage we're expecting to see. When it comes to RVs, our main source of DC voltage is our batteries, and they come in right around 12.5 volts. So that's usually what we're looking for. So we're gonna set our simple meter to the 20 setting, because that's the closest number it has to 12. On my Klein CL800, I can just turn the dial to the V setting and then press the orange button once to toggle it from AC volts to DC volts. Look for the squiggle for AC and the straight line for DC. My Klein meter, along with most fancier meters, is auto ranging, meaning I don't have to tell it what range of voltage I'm looking for. It's going to automatically detect if we're looking at a small amount of voltage or a large amount of voltage and change its unit accordingly. What it does mean is that when we're using a fancier meter like this, we do need to keep an eye on that unit. As a general rule of thumb, a milli anything in an RV isn't important to us, whether that be a milliohm, a milliamp, or a millivolt in this instance. We're just not doing anything so precise and so sophisticated that a reading that low is going to matter to us. Now just plug in your probes and we're ready to test for DC volts. One more thing to keep in mind when we're testing for voltage with a multimeter like this is that we're actually measuring the difference in voltage between the two probes. This seems a little in the weeds, but stick with me. As a metaphor, think about trying to measure my height. If we were to measure from the floor, I'm about 5 foot. If I were to stand on a bench, I might get to around 6 foot if we measured from the floor. But if we measured me from my knees, even if I'm standing on the bench, I might be 4 foot. So when it comes to measuring people's heights, we've all decided on a common place that we will measure from: the ground. When it comes to voltage, we need something similar. And in electricity, we call this place either the common or the ground, to keep it nice and simple. Our common or ground that we want to measure off of is actually the negative terminal of the battery. Our batteries are our source, so everything kind of goes back to there. And if you look closely at your batteries and followed the wires coming off of them carefully, you would see that one of the wires coming off of the negative side of the battery is either screwed or bolted directly to the frame of the RV. This is so we can use the entire frame of the RV as our ground or our common. So when we're testing things, this can look like a couple of different things. We can take our black probe and either place it directly on some metal part of the frame and then use our red probe to poke around. Or on a lot of appliances, there will be a whole bunch of wires going to a screw that's also drilled either directly into the frame or to some metal part of the appliance. We could take our black probe and put it on that screw and then still use our red probe to poke around and test things. If you're madly taking notes right now, you are an RVer after my own heart, but please know that you can go to rvrepairwoman.com/5000 and I've created a workbook for you. I know, I got you. It's free and it will walk you through not only all of the tests on your multimeter, but also will give you a sneak peek at all of the 10 calls that we're going to go through in this series. Again, you can get that at rvrepairwoman.com/5000. Okay, now that you've got your meter all up and running, let's see what this looks like in real life. Hello?
You gotta help me, man. Nothing in this dang RV will turn on. I think the batteries might be dead.
I'm on my way. If multiple things in your RV aren't working, then there's a chance that your batteries have died. Here's how to use your new DC volts test to find out. Set your meter to DC volts. Unplug your RV from shore power and keep some lights on in the RV. That way we still have a load on the system. Go find your house batteries and place your black probe on the negative terminal and your red probe on the positive terminal. If you have lead acid batteries and they're fully charged, you should see something in the realm of 12.5 volts. Anything under 12 volts is technically considered a dead battery, and most techs would tell you to chuck it and get a new one. Usually though, because I know batteries are expensive, if I see a reading that's above 8.5, I'll usually try to recharge that battery back up to full and see if it can't hold a charge. Live, damn you, live! But if you're getting a reading that's below 8, that battery is definitely dead and needs to be replaced.
He was so young.
Now, while you're here, if your batteries were good, keep your red probe on the positive terminal and then take your black probe and put it to some unpainted metal part of the frame of your RV. You should still see 12.5 volts. That's because, look closely, you'll find a cable that's coming off of the negative terminal of your battery and is bolted or screwed directly into the frame somewhere. That way, no matter what, the frame can always act as our ground or our common in our RV. Pretty cool. Now, bonus test. Take both of your probes and put them on the positive terminal of your battery. Now you're gonna see 0 volts. Even though this battery's charged up, we just tested it. That's because we're measuring the voltage difference between the two probes. So now that the probes are at the same place, we're seeing 0 volts. This is why the concept of finding your ground is so important. If you call me and say that you think your batteries are dead, I'm just setting my meter to DC volts, putting one probe on each battery, and looking for 12.5 volts. That's it. Will that be cash or credit? If I think something's fishy, like the battery is at 12.5, but things are acting up and we really think this battery might be dead, what I'll do is keep the RV unplugged for a couple minutes, maybe like 10 or so, with the lights on. And if I've got a couple other DC loads, like if you have a 12-volt fridge, that's a great one to turn on. But like a fridge on propane or a water heater on propane, let's get some other DC loads on the battery and see if the battery can't hold that 12.5 for a sustained period of time. It's okay if it dips a little down to like 12.4, 12.3, but if it starts rapidly falling down below 12 and you can actively watch it go down from 12.5 to 12.4 to 12.3 just as you're sitting there, that's a battery that can no longer hold charge. If it can't maintain, it's a dead battery. The reason why we're doing this test with the RV unplugged is because on your RV is a built-in battery charger, and we don't want to be reading the charger, we want to be reading the batteries. Oh, hello?
Help me, please. I'm plugged in and everything, but the fridge won't turn on.
I'm on my way. So even though the DC power in your RV powers multiple appliances, like your lights, your slides, your leveling jacks, the thing that most people seem to notice first when their DC power goes out is the fridge. I can't tell you the number of times I have gone to a call for a bad fridge, and it turns out that the RV just had no DC power at all. You already know how to check the batteries, we just learned that, but if you're plugged in, your RV has something called a converter that should be kicking in to charge the batteries up. The converter just takes the AC power you get from plugging into a pedestal and converts it to DC power to charge the batteries. It's just like a fancy battery tender that you might put on your car if you were gonna go away on vacation for a while. If you're plugged in and you're not getting DC power, there's a good chance that your converter has died or is at least acting up. Here's how to use your DC voltage test to find out. I usually start by testing at the batteries because they tend to be easier to get to than the converter itself. While your RV is plugged in this time, back at the batteries, set your meter to DC volts, put the red probe on the positive terminal and your black probe on the negative terminal. This time you should be seeing something in the realm of 13.5 volts. This is because the converter puts out a higher voltage than what the batteries sit at. Think of it like trying to pour water from one glass to another. In order to get water from glass A to glass B, glass A has to be higher up than glass B. If they were at the same level, the water would never move from one to the other. If we're not seeing 13.5 volts at the battery when we're plugged in, then our converter may have died. You can track down the converter to double check. It's usually hiding behind the breaker box panel. So just undo some screws and pull that sucker out, and the converter should be hiding behind. Sometimes it's beneath, and sometimes they've got it hidden in some crazy cabinet somewhere. I never say 100% when it comes to RVs, but either below or behind the breaker box panel is a good place to start. You're looking for something that looks like this, just a big generic box, and a lot of times they just have a normal Edison plug coming out of it. Sometimes this is like 3-wire for AC power that's hardwired in, but usually it's just a normal Edison plug. And if you're not sure if you found the right thing, there's usually a sticker on it telling you information about it. You can see the input on this is something in the realm of 120 volts AC. That's just normal AC volts we get when we plug into an outlet. And the output volts is that 13.5 volts DC, just like I told you. That's how we know this guy's a converter. So remember, we know if power goes into something but doesn't come out, then it's most likely our problem. Like I said, most of these converters just have a normal Edison plug. So just take this, plug it into an outlet that you know is good, like it's powering something else like a phone, and then set your meter to DC volts and put one probe in one of these and your other probe in the other one. You should see something in the realm of 13.5 volts. If you don't, then you know your converter is bad or acting up. This guy actually has some built-in fuses. If you know how to test those, go ahead and do that. If not, We're gonna get to that later in this series. But if you don't have any fuses and you know power's making it into the converter, but it's not coming out, then your converter is bad. Switch this bad boy out and you should be good to go. You got... Hello?
You gotta come help me. This air conditioner won't turn on and I am sweating like a pig.
I'll be there soon. A lot of people assume when their AC stops working that they need to replace the whole unit, when a lot of the times it's just the thermostat. Real talk, I was able to talk the seller down when I bought my RV almost $1,000 because she thought that the air conditioner needed to be replaced, and I was pretty confident that it was just the thermostat. Here's how you can do the same thing. Set the thermostat to cool and high fan, and then set the temperature to as low as it will go to ensure that the air conditioner should be kicking in. And then open that sucker up. Set your meter to DC volts, put your black probe on the blue wire and your red probe on the red wire. You're looking for something in the realm of 12 volts. This is the power going into the thermostat. If you don't see 12 volts, then the problem is upstream of even the thermostat. Go check those batteries again. If you do see 12 volts, then put your black probe on the blue wire and your red probe on the yellow wire. You should still be seeing something in the realm of 12 volts. This is the signal coming out of the thermostat for the compressor on your air conditioner. That's the part of the AC that does the actual cooling. Then put your black probe on the blue wire and your red probe on the green wire. You should still be seeing something in the realm of 12 volts. This is the signal coming out of the thermostat telling the fan on the air conditioner to kick on. If you didn't see 12 volts on either the yellow wire or the green wire, then give your thermostat a once over, see if it has a removable fuse that you might be able to change out. Again, we'll go over how to do that later in the series if you need a refresher. But if there isn't a fuse or the fuse is good, then the thermostat is bad. Switch that bad boy out and you should be good to go without having to replace a $1,200 air conditioner. Woohoo! By my calculations, we're up to $1,500 saved by not having to call big box camping store. If you want to save the other $3,500 that I'm teaching in this series, check out this video where I talk about the next setting on our multimeter.